It's time for Real Talk on Forge 103.9, a new sound.
Here at Real Talk, part of the idea is to kind of get you all exposed to what's happening in your backyards, and part of that has to do with politics, whether you like it or not.
Yep.
And we're going to be bringing it to you, and we're going to try to do it in a way that's fun, that's approachable, right, Matt?
Yes.
That we can all understand.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have, to kick off our political season here, Louis Gill, who's a candidate for District 3 Kern County Supervisor. Louis, how's it going?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me, gentlemen.
Yep. All right. Well, Matt, did we get his volume okay? I think.
Yep. Yeah, I think we got his volume.
All right. We good? Okay.
Yeah, we're good. Okay.
All right.
So Louis, obviously you're running for Kern County Board of Supervisors District 3. We'll get into that a little later.
Okay.
But let's learn about you a little bit. So, are you a Kern County native? Where did you grow up at? Where do you come from?
So I'm definitely from the San Joaquin Valley, but I was raised in Tulare County.
Okay.
So I was raised up in a little ways outside of a small town called Springville that's up above Porterville.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So my grandfather was a cattle rancher.
Okay.
And came from a very large family with like 11 siblings. And so there's lots of stories.
Lots of stories. Yeah, you had me there.
Louis, I wasn't going to say anything. I saw you walking with your cowboy boots, and I said, oh, no, is this another politician who put on cowboy boots because they're running for office? But he's got an excuse.
It's just kind of how I grew up.
Okay.
It's really how I grew up.
It's the real deal.
The real deal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but somewhere in the late 70s, the rest of the family voted to sell the ranch. So my grandfather kept his home, some barns, corrals, etc. That's where I grew up.
Okay.
So I grew up working in and around there. It was a great experience. Every morning that you'd wake up, it was like really old school. I'd get up, I'd have to go up, gather eggs, feed hogs. In the winter, you'd throw hay to the cattle. In the summer, you'd move sprinklers.
Wow.
And then we had 4-H animals, and so I would have to go take care of them, whatever that all was. Then you need to go take a shower because you smelled like the barn.
So you lived the life.
Yeah, absolutely. Then you'd go to school. So that was growing up. I graduated from Porterville High School.
Nice.
And then the year after high school, I took a gap year before gap years really existed.
Yeah.
Right? So this is back. Matt will remember this. You guys won't remember this. This was in 87.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes. Okay, we're right
80s.
there. We're right there.
The 80s, a hell of a time.
Oh, yes.
Exactly.
The best era.
Really good music.
Oh, yes. Oh, okay, man. Yeah. Oh, we're going to have a great conversation. Let's talk more about the 80s.
But what I did was I found out about this foreign exchange company that gave me the opportunity to go to Mexico City. So I lived with a family in Satélite, which is just a little bit north of Mexico City. And it was an amazing experience. I got to travel all over the country. When I graduated from high school, because I was going as an exchange student, I got a scholarship for $1,000.
Oh.
So I hit the airport and I went to the exchange rate, and it's before they changed the peso. So I changed it, and I got back more than $1 million pesos.
Oh, wow.
He was a millionaire.
I'm like, I'm doing anything I want.
The Güero has arrived.
Exactly. This is like, let's go. And so I had a great year, and I'd get on a bus, and I'd just go explore towns.
What are some of the things that you remember about like the culture? Because I remember going to Mexico City. My family's from Mexico City. It's where my dad's family is. So the things that I remember, I mean, it's just like, I've never been to New York City, but to me, I was like, this is as close as New York City. Like, because you're just surrounded by buildings.
Yeah, exactly.
Moving.
Yep.
So this is the thing. I flew there on my 18th birthday. All right, so here I go into this. I came off a cattle ranch, right?
Yeah.
2 miles outside of town of
Culture
1,000
shock,
people.
Yeah.
And as we're flying into the city at night, I can't see an end to the lights.
Oh.
And I'm like, I'm going to live in that?
Yeah. At this point, Porterville, Bakersfield's like the biggest cities you've been to, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Bakersfield had a mall. It was huge.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I really learned a great deal. What I remember a bunch was like, I loved being able to get on the combis. So they're just the VW vans that they have this system to take you everywhere, and then being able to get on the metro, the subway.
Yeah.
And I would just be like, I'm going downtown.
Yeah.
And I'd just take off, and I'd go and see everything, and it was...
And it sounds like you picked up Spanish, too.
Pues sí, me enseñaron.
Yeah, that's. You know,
I need
He's
a
saying it
year
right.
in
Look
Mexico
at that,
City.
Bob.
I need a year in Mexico City.
Bob's just slowly sliding down in his
Yeah.
chair.
Yeah, like okay. Can we get this segment over with?
so have you been back to Mexico City since then?
So I just got to go back.
Okay.
I hadn't been there for a very long time, and I got very close to my family, my host mom, and I mean my mom. She was
Yeah.
amazing,
Yeah.
and she passed.
Sorry to hear that.
And so I didn't get to see her, but I got to go visit my host sister and take my wife to the house that I lived in.
Wow.
And so it was fantastic. We had a really, really good experience.
Wow, we have to pay the bills around here. But when we get back, we're gonna talk some more about your upbringing, and then later on we'll start talking about the congressional race. But we're gonna learn about life after Mexico City because we know there's a lot more to the story. Don't turn that dial. You're listening to Real Talk on Forge 103.9, a new sound.
Forge 103.9, a new sound. This is Real Talk, and we are back with Louis Gill, who has been telling us all about his life growing up in Tehachapi. Not Tehachapi, sorry. I looked out Andres and remembered Tehachapi.
Porterville. You're not the only one who had a tongue slip. I said congressional race. We meant to say
Yeah.
supervisor race.
Matt's next. Matt's gonna mess up next, right? But one of the things that you were telling us about was you took a gap year before it was, the cool thing to do, right? The thing you were supposed to do.
Yeah.
Before, but it was Malia Obama who did it?
Yeah,
Right. Exactly. It became popular.
I just want to let you guys know I did it before her, and I've been on a break for 5 years. Okay? All right. But one of the questions I really wanted to ask you was why did you kind of like pick Mexico, right? Like that seemed like just a weird choice if you're in a program that can take you anywhere. Like I'm gonna be honest, if I'm 18 and I'm out of high school, I'm not going to Mexico on an exchange program. Take me to France.
Yeah, I grew up around Mexicans. That's all I know.
Yeah, so it really living in the valley, I grew up in and around Latinos and families that had a history and a culture that I just didn't know anything about.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really intrigued. And also, Mexico seemed like this really exotic, very close opportunity. And I'm like, let's go find out what that's like.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had visions that I was going to wind up being sent to some beach town or something. And now I'm in the most populated city in the world.
Yeah.
It's a completely different experience. But I can tell you, it completely changed my life because it showed me how fortunate, how privileged I was to be born to the piece of earth that I was born to.
Yeah.
Right? And how many things were available to me just simply because I was here.
Yeah.
And so I had an amazing year.
And it wasn't TJ. So it's like most of us, especially in the 80s, because we would go, me and my buddies, we'd go in the summer, spring break, we'd go to Ensenada or we'd go to TJ. So that was our idea of Mexico because we're so American. We're American dudes. I'm from McFarland, so you're from Porterville, so we kind of grew up in those little small kind of farming towns. But our idea of going to Mexico was like TJ or Ensenada, and that's as far as we went. But you went to Mexico City.
Yeah.
That's a whole other world when you think about it.
No, while I was down there, I went to Puerto Vallarta, I was in Monterrey, I was in Guadalajara. I mean, I just got to travel and see.
Gorgeous.
It's amazing.
Man.
So you finish up in Mexico City, and you're there for a year. What happens after Mexico City?
I didn't know what the heck to do with myself, the truth be told, but I went back to school and I started studying. I wound up in the Bay Area at San Francisco State, and the thing that I really enjoyed was my Spanish, so I actually got a bachelor's in Spanish, right? Because that was a good way to make money.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
Yes.
but you know what? It has served me in every aspect of my professional career, right? And so then I started working in the mission. I was looking for a way to get involved in the community. I found a place that worked with recently arrived children.
And when you say the mission district in
The mission in San Francisco, sorry.
Yeah.
And when I say the city, I mean San Francisco.
Yeah.
All those things that I get hung up on. And so I started volunteering at this nonprofit that worked with kids to help them catch up to grade level because they were usually kids who had recently arrived to our country. And I really fell in love with nonprofit work. I'm like, wow, I can actually make a living trying to help.
Yeah.
Sure.
What's this about? And so I kept working on that. I wound up in another organization and quickly found myself in management. And they were like, I need to see a budget and a cash flow projection for this organization. And I'm like, I can conjugate a verb for you.
Yeah, I can translate some things.
Right, exactly. And so I went to USF at that point and went and got a master's in nonprofit administration to learn how do you handle an organization like that.
Oh, wow.
And so in that time, I met my wife. We got married and had our son. And then we found out that we were pregnant with twins.
Wow.
Right? So everybody here felt that cold feeling in your stomach when you hear gemelas, right? It's like, now what am I going to do about that?
Uh-huh.
And so I told her, I'm like, we need grandparents like yesterday.
Yeah.
So we moved back down to the valley. I found a job with the Bakersfield Homeless Center. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you that literally homelessness was the last thing I was interested in doing. I was like, I don't want to deal with stinky, drunken old men. I was certain that that's what the whole thing was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then I walked into the homeless center, and in one of the first rooms after I got the job, I met a mom with a baby. And it completely changed my whole opinion of what was going on. Mm-hmm. And then we set about, how do I serve these people?
Yeah.
Like, how do I truly make this work for these families, for these single women? And so we reorganized the entire campus and acquired the Alliance Against Family Violence and Sexual Assault along the way. Learned a lot about trauma work, learned a lot about what happens when there are harms that come into families, and there's lots of different harms that happen that then can, if you're not careful, they echo through generations in a family, right? So you have to care for that hurt. And it just was something that I fell in love with. And so I did that for 21 years.
21 years.
That's commitment.
Yeah, that's good.
That's
Yeah.
commitment. Yeah, when we talk about not knowing Spanish, I feel like I think all of us haven't
I'm
really
not-
done that much in life.
I'm not even going to try to speak Spanish today.
Yeah. We were talking about accomplishing things and haters that we have, right? But, Lewis is the only one here who deserves that, right?
Yeah.
So
Wow.
So you said 21 years at the homeless center.
Yeah.
You ultimately made the decision to leave that and vacate the seat so you could kind of pursue a career in politics, if you will, or run for Congress. What drove that decision?
I really believe that we need change in leadership at a lot of levels. And what I was watching did not represent the people that I know and care about. I saw actions and decisions taking place that were more than disappointing, but were downright harmful.
Sure.
And I felt that you got to stand up. And if there's a path for potentially creating that change, well, go ahead and take it, right? You can't be afraid to try. It may not work out, but you got to try.
Was it something that you just woke up one day and said, I'm gonna run for Congress, or was it something that had just been kind of bothering you, kind of simmering until it came to a boiling point?
Well, I'm a guy that has a faith that matters to me, and so I spend every morning trying to quiet the mind, right? So prayer and meditation is a big deal for me, and I spend a lot of time on that in the mornings. I spend a lot of time at Sunday dinners with my family, a lot of time laying in bed next to my wife going, what do you think? Are we willing to put the family through this? Do you know what this means? Right? And also, I had to make sure that I left the organizations in the best place possible, right? Because the people that we served there were a heck of a lot more important than many of the decisions that would be made or actions that could be taken that could be harmful to that organization. So I really spent time coming to the decision, right? And what I really decided was that there is a path. There is a possibility for creating that change, and it's worth everything that we may have to pay to try for that change.
Yeah. Wow. So we're talking a little bit about why you decided to get into a different race, but now you're running for supervisor. So we'll talk about that transition when we take a break after the break here. If you have any questions, send us a text at 661-398-1039. Again, if you have any questions for candidate for District 3 Supervisor, Kern County Board of Supervisors, I should say, send us a text 661-398-1039. You're listening to Real Talk on Forge 103.9, a new sound.
Forge 103.9, new sound. This is Real Talk, and we are back with Lewis Gill, aren't we, Matt?
Yes, we are. Louis Gill is running for Kern County Supervisor for District 3.
Yeah.
And I ask everybody who's listening that if you're looking, you always have to make sure that you specify the district, because there are, how many districts are there in Kern County, Louis? There are 5 districts. So Louis is in District 3. So that's a whole other conversation. But before we get to that, during the last segment, we were talking about.
Let's get into some of the neighborhoods really
Okay.
quickly. Just so people know. So we have Louis, we have Laurel Glen, parts of Stockdale,
Correct.
Quailwood,
Going up into Quailwood.
yep, Oleander and Westchester,
Correct.
and parts of Oildale as well, or all of Oildale.
Most of Oildale.
Most
yeah.
of Oildale, and then we have northeast Bakersfield, kind of down into BCC area.
Correct.
So that's District 3.
That's the District 3.
yeah.
So it kind of hooks through the city.
Yeah.
Kinda
That's what
hooks
I
through.
noticed.
That's that, and like I was, that's a very diverse district.
It
There's
is.
a lot of different things going on in that district, and so yeah, that makes it very interesting to watch.
Absolutely. So, as I mentioned during the last segment, we were talking about when you decided I'm going to pursue this campaign and run against Kevin McCarthy when we're running for Congress. And we talked about how that kind of slow burn happened. You couldn't take it anymore. I'm running. You said goodbye. You said, left on good terms, wanted to make sure that everything was okay at the homeless center, and you're pursuing congressional race. Then one day, we get the messages start rolling out. The news starts coming out. Louis Gill is no longer running for Congress. He's going to run for Kern County Supervisors. And here we are.
That's right. Well, what happened was the census and redistricting.
Yeah.
And so that the independent commission did their work. They drew new lines. They made a lot of changes to the districts here in the valley, and I support those changes. But what it did do was it dramatically changed the district that I was running in. And I can tell you that I am interested in serving the community and helping create change. Just being a thumb in the eye is not really the way that I would like to spend the time that I think is needed to bring change to our community. And so then when I heard that Mike Maggart was retiring, and I began to get phone calls from individuals locally that had supported me, they really wanted me to reconsider. And so again, you go talk to the wife. Go talk to the family.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
you check in with your
Yep.
family first thing.
Absolutely,
have to.
100%.
Yeah, no, that's where you have to plant your feet.
Yeah.
That space has to be okay. And so everybody said this is the right thing. And so you cannot be afraid that when you get new information to be able to make change, right? If you just blindly struggle forward. So if it was a business, this is it. The market changed. So the product that I would be bringing to market, there was no longer a group that were going to buy that. Now you can still force that product into the market, but it's not going to work out. So what do? You find out where you can serve. And so I know that with the work that I've been doing for the last 2 decades, I can serve the residents of the 3rd District.
So you mentioned the market example. So the previous 23rd district was a market you felt that you could be successful in.
There was definitely a path there. That was still going to be difficult,
Okay.
but there was a possibility. With the redrawing, it became a very different district.
Because you were going up against, arguably the most powerful Republican in the country,
Yeah,
who has a war chest, who's
significant.
who's known to be arguably the best Republican fundraiser in modern day history, and so that's why I was asking. Was there? I guess what I'm trying to get at is
Just get to it.
was there any political calculation of like, what? I have a better chance at winning this race, this supervisor's race. That's why I'm going to jump over. Is that market analogy you gave? That's kind of what I pulled from. Is that fair to say?
I would say that there is definitely thought that goes into any decision like that, and some of it is calculation. Now, is it just like I'm going to leap over here because I think this is the best thing for my future? Nah, that's not it. Like I'm wired for service. Right? And if it was going to be in a district that I did not see a path to be able to tell my donors and supporters that, yeah, we can possibly make this happen. Instead, that changed.
Are you spending a lot of time having to explain that? Because I will say this: the first time when I read that you were changing races, the first thing that comes to mind is like, I think others are going to follow suit because maybe they just feel there's no way I can beat Kevin McCarthy, and I might just be kind of wasting my time. So
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have gotten into it if I didn't want to serve the community and not being afraid. Like, I'm not afraid of going into something that doesn't look good, right? There are fights that need to happen. But in this time, with the information that I had, myself and my family felt this was definitely where I could be the best of service.